Yeah, Brooke, as of this point, the indication we had was from U.S. Senator Amy Klobuchar tweeting about charges for the three officers. I can now tell you that based on our review of court records that have just posted, all three officers that were seen on that video have now been charged. We're talking about J. Alexander Kuhn, Thomas Lane, and Tu Tao, court records indicate, have been charged with aiding and abetting second-degree murder. Now, based also on those court documents, we see that the fourth officer, who had previously been charged with third-degree murder, we're talking about Derek Chauvin, court records indicate that his charge has now been elevated to second-degree murder. So we can confirm that according to court records here from the state of Minnesota, all four officers, Brooke, that were involved in this incident involving the death of George Floyd have been charged by authorities.
Josh Campbell, thank you so much for that. And Elliot and Ellie, I want to bring you back in, but let me just sit on that for a second. George Floyd was killed a week ago Monday. And here we are on a Wednesday, and you now have all four officers, right? They were immediately fired. And people in this country were calling for justice, and they wanted these officers charged. And now you have that lead officer, Derek Chauvin, charged with second-degree murder. And you have the other three officers, as you called it, to both of you, aiding and abetting second-degree murder. So, Ellie Honig, yeah. I can't underscore how significant this day is.
Yeah, Brooke, and I give a lot of credit to the Minnesota Attorney General. I mean, every move that he has made and will make is going to be under an intense microscope, rightly so. And people, I hope, understand, to bring murder charges and aiding and abetting charges against four people in a week and a half is good work. That is solid work. And it sounds like they have, at least the AG, really has his facts in order, and he better, because the stakes on this trial are going to be through the roof.
Elliot, here's my next question, because I can only imagine folks in this country, we talk about swift justice. And Ellie, I hear you in that, in just over a week, this is pretty swift. But what's next procedurally? So, all right, all of these officers are now charged. What's next?
Well, again, under the Constitution, they're entitled to a speedy trial, and so presumably, there would be a trial in the very near future. Now, part of the delay may have been trying to establish whether they could have gotten any of the other officers to cooperate, almost as cooperating witnesses against the primary individual who was charged. So, we presumably could get to a trial. Some of them may plead, and we'll see. All this shows, just big picture to pull the camera back, and almost taking this out of criminal justice for a moment, is the power of the cell phone video. And frankly, think of how many other George Floyds there might have been across the United States whose cases did not end.
That there have been across the United States.
Pardon me, that there have been across the United States where there were not four officers charged because there wasn't a bystander on film. So to some extent, this is a testament to the value of body cameras for police. It's a testament to 2020 and the power of the cell phone video and the ability to record actions, and just the ability and our need to see what happens and how policing takes place. And so that's, I think, the big takeaway here is the fact that we're even talking about this is itself remarkable, given some of the ills that that plague our nation with respect to how police.
Such a smart point. I really appreciate you making that, Elliot and Ellie. Stand by. Let me bring in another voice, President of the NAACP, Derek Johnson. Mr. Johnson, a pleasure, sir. You've heard us discussing the news. All four of these officers charged, the first of whom his charge is now elevated to second-degree murder. Your reaction?
I think this is a good day. First, for all of the people who had to witness an individual, human, a man be murdered in broad daylight by officers, with individuals standing by pleading with him as he pled for his life. But it's also a good day because the community was victimized a second time by a district attorney who refused to bring the charges. It is unfortunate that this district attorney, one person, held not only that city hostage, it held the nation hostage because of his refusal to bring the charges that was so obvious to everyone who viewed that video. 8 minutes and 46 seconds, the man laid there and he pled for his life. And that district attorney could not bring himself to bring the charges that we are now thankful that the state attorney general had the courage to do what's right. Justice will probably get served now.
Derek Johnson, please, sir, do me a favor. Stand by. Forgive me, but I do have George Floyd's son standing by, along with the family attorney, Ben Crump. So our correspondent, Sarah Seidner, is with the two of them. And please, Sarah, pass along my condolences to Mr. Floyd's son, and the floor is yours.
So, first and foremost, we want to say that we are sorry for all that you have been through in this. Quincy Mason, Benjamin Crump here, the lead attorney for the Floyd family. Quincy, I know you want to speak. You just want to say your piece, so I'm going to let you do that right now. A lot of people want to hear from you, because nobody's going to know George Floyd better than his own son.
I'm here with my family. We demand justice. My father should have been killed like this. We want justice.
Plain and simple.
Plain and simple.
Justice. Benjamin, let me ask you about, and I see you holding Quincy there.
It's very emotional. It's very emotional for Quincy and all of his children and all of his family. I mean, to have all of this thrust upon you, to witness this tragic killing of his father, and I don't want to get into the details because I don't want to put him through any further emotional agony than he's already doing, but it was a horrific death on top of losing your father.
I can't imagine, and really, we are so deeply troubled and sorry for what you have been through. Benjamin, there are new details now coming out about the three officers and Derek Chauvin, the person with his knee down on Mr. Floyd's neck. He is being charged now in court documents with second-degree murder, and I'm sorry you have to keep hearing that over and over and over again. He's being charged with second-degree murder, so they have lifted the charge, made it higher, and they have now, as I understand it from our Josh Campbell, charged the other three officers in this case. Tell me what you are hearing and what you think about the charges that have now been meted out on these four officers here.
Well, the family has always maintained that all four of the officers should be arrested for this horrific killing of Quincy's father. The charges against the officers, we believe, should be an aiding and abetting charge to the murder, or it should be a felony murder of some type, because we know if you cooperate or participate in the commission of a crime, then you can be held accountable for that crime as well. They do it to minorities all the time. And so we want equal justice in America. And Officer Chauvin, we believe it should be first-degree murder. We believe that they have been upgraded to second-degree murder, but the Attorney General has informed the family the investigation is ongoing, and if there's evidence to support a first-degree murder conviction, they will charge it. And so the family is relieved that Attorney General Keith Ellison, who has a track record for championing civil rights, has moved expeditiously in arresting these officers before we memorialize George Floyd tomorrow here in Minneapolis, Minnesota.
When you look at that video, when you stand with the family, when you hear from the family, and I know you don't want me to ask you a question, so I'm going to ask it to you, Ben. What did you see when you saw that video over and over again? What did you see in your mind? Is this based on race? Is this based on policing gone wrong? What did you see?
Well, I saw, I believe, what everybody in the world saw, a man being tortured to death while he asked for them to take the knee off the neck because I can't breathe. He even called for his mama. And when you think about the natural order of things, mothers are the people who protect you when you first come in this world. And for him to call for her was more than just symbolic. It was an outward expression of complete, utter desperation from a dying man. And I'm not go further because I don't want Quincy to have to endure this, but it was torture. And so the Minnesota governor was right to look at human rights violations by the Minneapolis Police Department for probably other reasons in the last 10 years, but predominantly for that video that we all saw, Sarah, that we cannot unsee.